Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 3. And today, I'm gonna be giving you part 9 of What If Naruto awakened the Yellow Rinnegan after his exile. Remember to get this one to 200 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. I'll be leaving the link in the description for Anime King. I post a brand new episode of What If Naruto was a direct descendant of a sage, so go ahead and check out that and enjoy guys. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, as Naruto made his way along with Konan as he arrived to Uzu, the ruins of Uzu. Getting there, Naruto saw chakra in the ground, as there was a strange ceiling construct all over the entire island, confusing him. What kind of seal was it? As they made their way to where he saw chakra, as they went down the stairs, as Naruto stopped as he saw a notebook and a body nearby, as it was just skeleton remaining. As Naruto went into the book, it belonged to a man, Uzumaki. It seems like he was writing this while the village was falling, as blood was on the page. He was severely wounded, but he was writing along. There was a trap set up just in case if a non-Uzumaki had found this place and find somewhere to bypass his heels. Naruto jumped in front of Konan. It was an instinct, because a massive suppressor seal was all over the place to suppress their chakra. Konan, eyes widened, but the attacks, the kunais that were inscribed with seals, stopped right in front of Naruto, as they seemed to have sensed that he was a Uzumaki. As they draw a bit of his blood as he sank into the ground, the whole place lighted up as Konan asked him why, if that had hit him. Given that he was not in a state, seeing that he was aimed for vital areas, he would have died. He told her that he was her partner, but she still wanted to know why would he risk everything for her. As he told her, well, instincts, and he would protect her anyway. Konan felt something strange, but she didn't comment on it, as a vault opened up to show there was a lot of, well, valuable artifacts inside, made from gold. These things would be used and sell for a lot of money. As Naruto also saw a strange seal in a area at the back. As Naruto felt the entire island by just tapping into it, as Naruto realized what it was a seal to recover the buildings in the island. As Fuinjutsu was always an impressive art, but to be able to do something like this, as Naruto passed his clone a large amount of his chakra, as to the point where he had to even crouch a bit, seeing that he gave it a lot, as it would need a lot of chakra to supply the seals. As Naruto and Konan made their way, as Naruto went through Hansan and performed a summon, as Naruto summoned some creatures which he called them dinosaurs, as he found out with the Prida path that animals, creatures that didn't exist that he think of, he could call it to this round. As he realized the different aspects of the Prida path, it was like he was using literal creation to create something that wasn't even alive and giving it life, and he can control it, even see through their eyes, as he left them behind to protect the island while he was gone. Time skip. At Kiri, as Maid Harume was suddenly startled, everyone was. The sensors were, well, feeling that they were going to pass out when Naruto arrived there. Naruto wanted to know the location of Kiri. The place was secretive and covered by mist, and the place was really hard to find the exact location. He didn't want to just go in, because he wanted to find out if there was any Uzumakis there first. Mei and the others tested his patience as Naruto was about to kill them all, but Mei stopped. Being a good leader also knew when the time to retreat and stop, so she told him, as Naruto ended up leaving the Konan, leaving behind a very angry Mei as he had killed one of her fighters. Naruto was able to tap into the chakra signatures of the Uzumakis, as he spoke to them, as he spoke to one of the elders named Rengoku. As Naruto told him that the Uzumakis will live on, something seemed to click in the man. The Uzumakis had dyed their hair black as they were hiding. They didn't join the rebellion forces because they didn't want to be found out. But now, they can finally shed these processors and go back to their village. The Uzumakis will rise again, as Naruto made Konan lead them out of the village as they all packed their belongings and headed off. As Naruto went straight towards Yagura, confirming with them that he will take care of it. Making his way, Naruto disassembled a few shinobis as he made his way right in the office by breaking through the window, sitting down as he asked Yagura if he was a part of the annihilation of the Uzumakis. Yagura boasts about it, which pissed Naruto off to no end, as he simply smiled, as he could sense that Konan and the Uzumakis had made their way. It was time to put this man in his place. So yeah guys, so basically that's where we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So what is we begin this new episode? We begin this episode with someone hopping from tree branch to tree branch, quickly making their way. It was none other than Jiraiya, as he got an alert from his spies that blonde Akatsuki member had been seen passing through these areas, going towards the land of water. Jiraiya wasn't so sure what Naruto was doing near these areas. Well, if he was a part of the Akatsuki, Jiraiya wasn't so sure what Naruto had in his mind anymore or what exactly he was doing. After finding out that piece of information, Jiraiya had found himself to be a failure. He had failed at most things in his life, but this was just beyond, as he never expected Naruto, the always laughing, smiling, cheerful Naruto, to turn out this way, for this to happen, as he didn't even want to think what Minato would think of him, unable to protect the boy that the man left behind after risking his life for the village. Jiraiya sped up, as there was many islands nearby to search. They were the lost islands off the coast, and they were Kiri. But why would Naruto be going to Kiri? At the moment a war was going on there, the rebellion versus the Mizukage forces. Jiraiya made his way as he had to find Naruto. He had to find him, as the group had lost track of him since he sped off. Jiraiya was going to search every inch of the place to find him, no matter what. Meanwhile, as Rengoku stopped, along with the rest of the Uzumakis, in total, there were a few hundreds of them. Most of them had spread off to different areas, while most of them had dyed their hair, changed certain appearance to make their way, never even using their bloodline once again, so they wouldn't be alerted. Rengoku was a part of that faction as well, as he also possessed the bloodline of the Uzumakis, able to produce chakra chains. A few of them did, but the ones that did, it was a unique bloodline. But for one thing, all Uzumakis knew the arts of seal, which they had to hide for years upon years, hiding in solitude, afraid to show their true heritage. They were a distance away from the village now. Konan-san, he said as he turned towards Konan. Do you believe that he can handle this alone? As Konan turned towards the man, as he had asked her name as she told him. She didn't see the problem. Given that Nagato was a Uzumaki as well, he shouldn't be against these people. And not to mention that Naruto was a Uzumaki, and these were his people as well. Naruto can handle himself, he'll be fine. But against the entire village, are you sure? Asked Rengoku. As Konan narrowed her eyes over there. She knew that Naruto was strong, but he hadn't showed her or Nagato the full capability of what his Rinnegan truly possessed. She knew that he had something hiding, but she never questioned him on it, because Nagato never questioned him on it. But to be faced off against the Kage of the village, and also the entire village backing him. But there's a reason why he told her to stay back. She knew he was going to do something dangerous, as she couldn't afford for him to lose himself. Can you remember his fight? Said Konan as she looked at the people. Most of them looked scared, as some of the men there were talking to them, trying to reassure them. Yes, my people still know their ways of Fuinjutsu, and there's many proud warriors here. You don't have to worry, we can defend ourselves. Konan created 2 paper clones just instead. I will go see if you need my assistance. Rengoku nodded, as he couldn't allow this boy, which he felt hope when the boy spoke, be killed in battle. Rengoku didn't know why, but he felt like Naruto Uzumaki was going to be the one to reunite and bring back the Uzumakis to their greatness. Yes, the Uzumakis will not fall. They will never fall, Rengoku thought to himself. And not to mention those eyes. There was no mistaking, that boy did possess them. As Rengoku smiled as he looked towards his people, he stepped forward to reassure them that they will be fine. Despite not knowing the challenges ahead, he felt a wave of confidence at the moment, which he hasn't felt in a really long time, as he stepped towards his people. Meanwhile, at Konoha, Snally was currently in her office. She has been looking for reports, but none of them has mentioned any Akatsuki. Jiraiya has gone silent for the most. as he said that he will find Naruto and bring him back here, and knock some sense into him no matter what. But Tsunade wasn't so sure. She knew that Naruto was deeply hurt, as she saw it in his face. The look on his face nearly broke her when she saw it. That look of complete hopelessness when he got exiled. It hurt her to no end. And she remembered. She remembered in her dreams at night when she sleep. And if it was enough to change Naruto like this, she shook her head. No, being exiled from Konoha was not the only reason. She was confused by that. Even if he was exiled, they were still his friends. She was still like a grandmother figure to him, as she missed when he used to call her Bachan. But he just changed like that, joining the enemy, and why would the Akatsuki even let him join? As she clenched her fist tight. Problems after another. There must be another reason. When he comes to speak with her, she will make sure to find out what it is. Sakura has not really have a personal life lately. Thinking about the girl had become her student, and the both of them had been there for each other. Even though she was a Hokage, Tsunade had went through a stage where she couldn't bear most things, not seeing the blonde hair. After all, it was his. It was his everything about him that made her come back to Konoha. His attitude, his demeanor, his determination. She also saw the grief that Sakura was feeling as well, after realizing what she did back in her youth. Sakura has pushed herself and been working hard lately. Just been working, not really having a personal life. She needs to speak with Ino about this, to get the girl to go have some fun with her friends. Other than working, she trained. That was the only thing she do recently, and she needs to snap out of that funk, to do something else in her life, other than worry. If she did not, the stress would be too much for her. Tsunade just hoped when Naruto he was okay. Meanwhile, at Kiri, something was sent sailing with force. It was none other than a body. The short body of Yagura was sent sailing as he smashed right into the side of a building opposite of the Mizukage's tower. Yagura bared his teeth in rage. He ripped himself out of the building, his staff in hand, as he looked towards the boy. A bare flick of his hand, and he was sent with such force, he was confused. Those eyes of his though, he had once read a legend about a mystical eyes called the Rinnegan, but he thought it was just a legend. But those rune patterns, they were no mistake in it. The descriptions were the same. Those eyes were said to be the eyes of gods. But how could this one boy possess it? Still, that doesn't matter. Yagura watched as Naruto leaped from the building and landed next to one closer to him. The moment Naruto did though, he was surrounded. Hundreds of Kiri ninjas, all of them on different skyscrapers. The building has been evacuated, most of the buildings has, as people are making their way towards the shelters to get out of the village devastation that was going to be caused. The shinobis all started to speak through hand sign as the commander gave the cue. All of them released it. A great torrent of water rise up like a tidal wave. Another set of shinobis speed through hand sign as they infuse it with a wind force, making the water more ravishing. Another set of shinobis electrocute the water as a tidal wave rushed towards Naruto, who stand right in the center of this all. Naruto stood there unmoving, his eyes focused on Yagura, who smirked back at him. As Naruto took in a deep breath before extending both hands. "Seems like you don't understand the position you're in. None of you," he said. "Almighty." Push! It all happened so quickly. Yagura, none of them stood a chance. The force was smacked away by an invisible wall that surrounded Naruto. Everything was ricocheted back to the shinobis. Most of them had the reaction time to jump, but most of them got electrocuted by the wave of water that slammed into them. The village, the buildings around shook violently at the force. Yagura had enough time to jump away as he landed next to an opposite building. The moment he did though, he spun around and broke up his staff as Naruto's feet connected with it, pushing him back by the force. But Yagura wasn't a Kage for nothing as he twisted his body and swung his staff towards Naruto's skull. Naruto brought up his arm, reinforced it with chakra, but he was still pushed back a bit. As he smiled, he twisted his leg and lashed out towards Yagura's stomach, who stomped it down as his leg hit the ground. Yagura then reached for Naruto's face as Naruto tilted back just in time. As Yagura twinkled, flipping over his body being short as he was able to do it quickly. His hands flipped through a single hand sign as a vortex of water literally pulled from the air around him came around the man. The man spun violently in the torrent and slammed right into Naruto's stomach, hitting him right off the building. Naruto was sent sailing as he smashed into the market district down below. As Yagura jumped down, wasting no time, he raised his staff high above his head. The thing was infused with chakra as he brought it down. Boom! The entire earth where they were shook violently. But Naruto was holding his staff with one hand. Yagura not feeling the force that he brought down a minute ago. Naruto yanked on the staff as he slammed his skull right into Yagura's head, knocking him back. Yagura staggered just the slightest as Naruto lashed out the palm strike, hitting Yagura right in the chest, blowing him back. Naruto disappeared with a burst of speed and appeared behind him and drive Yagura face down to the earth before kicking his butt to the side. Yagura rolled as he speed through hands and took in a deep breath. He then fired out water bullets towards Naruto, who slammed his hand in the earth. A massive stone arm came up and took the water bullets like they were nothing. As Naruto got back to his feet, "I must say I'm disappointed," he said. Despite the fighting and the brutal situation, he had a smile on his face. "I thought you were a Kage. Weren't Kage supposed to possess much more strength than this? If this is all you possess, I must say, you're quite weak." Yagura eyes pulsed, but before he could do nothing, a hail of kunais and shurikens rained down on Naruto. As they were coming down hard, Naruto simply smirked as two of his tails came out and blasted them away. Before he raised his hand, "Universal pull!" Yagura was yanked off his feet. He had enough speed to throw his staff just in time, but Naruto jumped away as Yagura was pulled with such force, making Naruto go behind him as he couldn't stop just in time. Naruto then spin Yagura with that force, releasing a burst of the almighty push right into Yagura's stomach. Yagura was thrown back out of the village with such force that he crashed through several small market shops and buildings while making his way, but none of them stopped him because of the force. He groaned in pain and agony as he slammed right at the outskirts of the village. Impossible. He got to his feet, blood leaking from his mouth. He was thrown back so far. Yagura slowly got to his feet as Naruto started to rise up in the air. "All of you are inconvenienced in this battle." As all of the shinobis down below started to throw kunais and shurikens towards him. Naruto turned his head as he felt thrown on a bit off as she was coming, but he had enough time. Yagura was safely out of the village. He couldn't kill him, he had the Beijo inside of him after all. But this village on the other hand, this village and its people shall experience the same thing that the Uzumakis felt. As Naruto extended his arms, he had to tap into the power inside of him for this. He couldn't afford to use his own power to be weak after facing off against Yagura, as he knew that the man was going to be pissed after this. As Naruto wasted no time, inside of his body, inside of the seal, the chakra, the most that he could handle at the moment started to leak under the bars. As the walls, the usually red walls, were now all golden. As Naruto's body inside started to ripple, the power started to be sent outwards. As the fox chakra was being funneled and changed by the Prita path, flooding into his system at a rate. But it wasn't affecting his pathway, seeing that they were being changed to the purified chakra. So it felt cool and running. As Naruto's eyes were pulsing yellow. Almighty. Push! The entire village went white. A bright streak of white light seemed to envelop the entire place. Everyone looked up. The people going about their day hiding in the shelters, all of them looked up in fear. And then it all happened. Hell. Right at the center where Naruto was, it started to expand out. Konan immediately stopped her flight as she felt the force. She had to fly back. As the village was being pushed apart, shinobis alike, shinobis, civilians, all of them were being blown. Meanwhile, Mei Terumi, Ayo, and Kojo, and a few others stood there in shock. The sensors had sensed the residual power. All of them were on a steep hill just in case if Yagura was the one doing something down there, but it was not. Yagura was the one fighting from what the sensors got. The sensor had to stop its sensor ability because amount of chakra that was being released was overwhelming. It felt like it was stifling him. But what they saw from a distance was nothing but smoke, as the entire village was blown away. Nothing left standing. Kojiro stood there, despite being a part of the rebellion forces. Their objective was to win, defeat Yagura and reclaim their home, and for me to become the Mizukage, as, despite everything, she was going to become the Mizukage, being a part of the rebellion faction, be leading them and providing such a warm and calm feeling. Mei had her fist clenched tight. Blood was seeping down from her palms as she was shaking uncontrollably. She knew that this boy would do something despicable, but to this level. What were they fighting for now? To reclaim their home. It was gone, as Mei bared her teeth in rage. Kojiro looked over there with tears already forming in his eyes. Ayo couldn't activate his Miyaka and there was too much residual chakra in the area. This monster had to die, she thought to herself. Meanwhile, Yagura quickly made his way as he stopped. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Could one boy really possess power like this? Yagura started to walk calmly inside the ruins of his village. Bodies lay everywhere. Most of them dead, some of them struggling to get back to their feet, but none of them in fighting condition. The more he walked, the more anger and power he felt circulating through his system. He was pissed. He was vengeful. He was downright furious, his staff shaking violently in his hand. This one boy stepped into his village, murdering his people, destroying their home. Yagura then saw him, with everything this boy has done. The audacity to sit down and looking off into space. That was exactly what Naruto was doing. He was just sitting there. You've come. His tone was calm. And what infuriated Yagura to no end was smiling. The boy still had a smile on his face, a calm, peaceful smile. Like what I have done in the place, said Naruto. Yagura looked at him. You will die for this, he said. Die for this? Are you gonna be the one to kill me, Naruto asked. You know something. The people of Uzo felt the same way when you, the Hidden Stone, and Kumo attacked the village. How do you think they felt going about their days? Just being attacked like that, out of nothing, out of nowhere. Their people being slaughtered, their friends, mothers, sons, daughters, being taken down that easily, and they had to watch it all, force them to flee and take on new identities just to survive. So you're concerned about your village here? I don't really care, said Naruto. You can all burn in hell for all I care. You were the three-way alliance. Back then, incredibly strong. No one village could face you, you thought. You never knew that it would come back to bite you in the ass this way. And I'm going to be the one to lash you know that revenge. But don't worry, you won't die here. I will enjoy beating you. That is exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna beat you to an inch of your life. Then, we're gonna take that beat out of your body. And I'm gonna throw your corpse off of a mountaintop, leaving it to the wolves. Yagura smiled. Despite everything, he smiled. You're strong. I can tell you that you're strong. I'm not ashamed or afraid to say that. But boy, if you think you're living your life, you're sadly mistaken. You think just because you possess those eyes that you can do as you want and do as you feel. But trust me, Yagura body then started to release a tint as a strange red tint started to surround his body. A first single tail then came from behind him. I will enjoy standing over your corpse. When the time comes, I won't even give you a last word. I'll make it as painful as possible. You're not gonna go out of this easy. No begging for your life. No hoping for repent. I'm gonna make you suffer, said Yagura as a second tail emerged behind him. Yagura wasted no time as he was done talking. He speed through unsigned. Only someone in the Sharingan or eyes that belongs to Naruto could track someone like this. That kind of speed was unnatural. He slammed his hand on the earth. Nothing happened until the earth started to shake violently. As it cracked under the weight, water exploded out as it flooded the surface. Naruto jumped as he stood calmly on top of the water, the rushing wave. Nothing was happening around him. Yagura speed through handstand once again, water style, cracking, as he slammed his hand in the water. As Naruto felt a buildup of chakra right in front of him, it was then a strange massive beast broke from the water. It had strange tentacles like an octopus and a large mouth. The thing was made up from pure water, as teeth were all over, 100 of them in the thing's mouth. It had 3 heads. The heads resemble the dinosaurs that he made back there. They were long, and their eyes narrowed dangerously towards him. All of the tentacles were sent towards Naruto. Naruto simply smirked even more. "Seems like you don't understand something," he said with his eyes closed. "No matter how powerful, no matter how strong your attacks may be, they are still made up of chakra. And against me." One simple raise of his hand, the tentacles slammed into an invisible force as the chakra started to get sucked away from the attack, leaving it completely horrendous as the water just plopped down like it wasn't even there. Seeing that it no longer have the chakra to maintain it, "Well, if chakra won't work, I guess I'll just crush you the old-fashioned way with my bare hand," said Yagura. As the man ran on top of the water, his form was hunched down like some kind of rabid dog. His entire body was now shrouded. As Naruto watched as the man run, his skin started to get peeled off as he entered the stage 2 form of the Biju. He leaped towards Naruto as he was a shell on his back, his claws stretching out to tear into Naruto's face. Naruto reached behind him as he was a sudden poof. A sword appeared in his hand as he swinged it. Yagura formed smirk as he was about to rip right through the sword. But to his surprise, the sword stabbed into his palm. He winced in pain and jumped back. He looked at his hand. How did this get through? As Naruto's sword was coated in a yellow glow, as his eyes reflect the same color, Naruto wasted no time as he shot forward. Flash step, he muttered the word. He was gone. Yagura blinked as he could not see him anymore. As Konan was watching from above, she heard Naruto mutter that word before. She didn't actually know what the technique did, but he was just gone. The next second he was behind Yagura. Yagura screamed out in pain as he collapsed down to his knees. Blood pouring from all over his body, but because of the cloak you could not see it. He growled angrily as he slammed his hand in the water, rippling it as it rose up in front of Naruto. He shot out of it as he opened his mouth. Water projectiles came from them and crashed to where Naruto stood. But Naruto simply jumped and leaped away. Yagura then fired off a strange crystal-like substance, coils, as they struck the ground. Anywhere they touched, the coils started to spread as one of them came towards Naruto as he sliced it. But the thing was tougher than he thought, giving Yagura the time that he needed as he appeared behind the blonde. His hand stretched out. Naruto twisted his waist just in time and spun as his feet connected with the shell on Yagura's back, but there was not even a scratch. Yagura then roared, a force that blew Naruto away as he flipped in mid-air and landed on his feet. Naruto stabbed his blade into the ground as the water around him started to be evaporated as he then yanked out his blade. The area that he was standing, no water resigned there. Yagura then shot towards Naruto, his 2 arms extending. 3 arms came from the cloak behind him as he tried to hold on Naruto. Naruto thrust this blade off of Yagura. Yagura simply tilted his body as the blade passed him. Naruto twisted his hand as the blade spun in the air and stabbed Yagura through the leg. He screamed out in pain as he collapsed down. As Naruto recoiled his blade as it came right in his palm, as he flashed off the blood. Before muttering the word once again, flash step. This time Yagura was sent sailing out of nowhere. He didn't use the almighty push or anything. Konan watched as she wondered what was going on. She was confused. But Yagura was being thrown back violently as he crashed once again. Yagura slowly picked himself up this time as his rage was overboiling as he started to build a Biju bomb, a miniature one given the state that he was in, as he formed the black ball and fired it. Naruto's 9 tails exploded from behind him, all of them taking on different nature as they combined into one, an unstable, destructive ability that shouldn't even be considered safe was produced. Something that Naruto even seemed to struggle to maintain for a moment until he released it. It exploded with Yagra B2 bomb. Yagra ball was consumed before Naruto explosion went off. The entire seaboard of Kiri shook violently as Mei and the others Konan as he had to back away. Konan was blown back in mid-air, forcing her to shield herself with her paper wings. When the dust and everything cleared, Naruto got back to his feet. Despite who he was, he still had his limits. Shooting off high power abilities like that wasn't anything normal, not to mention using Splash Step, a rather taxing ability. But the job was done. Yagra was on the ground. His body has resorted back to normal in his human form. Cuts and scrapes litter his body as he was messed up. One of his eyes were shut as a long gash was slashed across it. Blood was leaking down. His arms had deep gashes in them. There was a nasty wound in his stomach as he was coughing up blood. Naruto stepped forward. I told you that you would suffer for what you did. But still, you thought you would win, Naruto said, as his blade was dragging on the ground. Yagra saw those menacing golden eyes as he feared for his life. Even fighting against the rebellion forces, Mei Tarume, and those guys, he never feared for his life like this before. Yagra then released it all as he let the power consume him. Naruto felt it before he leaped away. An explosion that enveloped the area. Naruto extended his hand as Mizu Chakra was absorbed into his body, fueling him as his previous path converted into his normal chakra as he felt his body be refreshed. As Yagra released a lot of chakra to just explode like that into his true form. When the smoke cleared, Naruto stood as he saw the massive three-tailed turtle glaring down at him ominously. The thing three tails pointed towards Naruto as they released a stream of water. The thing tore through the earth like a laser. It was so dense, it tore tunnels to the earth. As all of them combined to one and came towards Naruto, who held up his hand. The ability started to be absorbed as the excess chakra started to fill Naruto's body, his eyes pulsing unnaturally as there was too much chakra. Seeing that it wasn't getting anywhere, the beast stopped as he slammed his tails down hard, creating a mighty shockwave that blew apart the earth. As Naruto had to jump a stone and debris was sent sailing. The thing then rolled into a spinning ball, tearing trenches through the earth, following Naruto. Naruto flew up in the air as the thing leaped. It spun and lashed out its body at the last moment and spinning mid-air, creating a violent gust and yanked Naruto down with it as he was smashed in the ground. Yagra then landed as Naruto got to his feet. The thing then rolled right towards Naruto. As Naruto stood there, he extended one arm. Almighty. Push! As the massive beast, despite its size, was thrown off its axis and flown back, smashing away. As Naruto stood there, he really had to hold himself back in this fight, because if he took things too far, he might end up killing him, and that will just cause problems for the Akatsuki, and they will have to wait for Tail Beast to be reformed. So at the moment, despite his anger, Naruto was really holding back a lot, not using his full extent of his ability, not to mention he hadn't even used his serpents yet, because if he used that, he would rip apart the Yagra chakra system and completely shred the beast inside, maybe even absorb it, and that wasn't what he wanted. The standby had enough of that. As Yagra was in control, he had enough as he formed a Biju bomb. Naruto tried to make his way towards it, but Yagra fired off the streams of water again, stopping Naruto. He didn't condense it, he fired off it large. Konan's eyes widened as she saw Naruto stand right in the path. He could handle this, right? The thing smashed into Naruto's barrier as he started to absorb the power. Yagra, the three tails itself, seemed to smirk as he fired off another attack. As Naruto was behind the ball, he couldn't see the attack. He felt the surge, but it was too late. It smashed into the Biju bomb, exploding it, blowing up right in his face. Konan couldn't help herself as she screamed. Naruto, she cried out as the explosion rocked the entire seaboard of Kiri once again, shaking tremors through the island. Seamen, fishermen, all over the place. They felt their boats turn off their axes and blown back, trees started to be blown away. The earth started to split of the explosion. The Uzumakis felt the dip in power, as most of them were great sensors they could feel their savior fighting Yagra. They could feel that he was holding back, but for what reason they did not know. But now it was bad. Really, really bad. As one of them rushed off. This person had just come and gave them hope, and yet they were just standing there. No, Rengoku said. The Konan clones are too distracted, as they were looking over as well. It seems like they were strangely feeling the same thing that Konan was feeling, as they were looking over with worry on their face. At the moment, the other male members of the Uzumaki clan started to rush off as well. The Kunoichis of the clan started to rush off as well to help their newly acquired savior. Rengoku sighed. He couldn't sit behind and be an old geezer. As he shot forward as well, the clones making their way. They had to help. After all, they were confident enough in their Fuinjutsu skills they could stop this beast. Even though they didn't have the sheer willpower, they could seal it away. They didn't know why their savior was holding back, but they had to help. Meanwhile, as the three-tail was chuckling to itself, the thing sounded strange as it laughed. But that was the wrong thing to do, as a barrage of paper explosive lashed onto its skin and exploded, knocking it back. The thing growled dangerously as a massive Fuma shuriken made from paper snapped right into its eye. It cried out in pain and agony, focusing its one good eye on what was attacking it. As Konan was furious that she was creating a massive paper construct above her. She was about to hurl until the three-tail roared, released a mighty blast from its mouth that blew Konan back. Before she could get up though, the thing rolled towards her. As she extended her papers, firing off paper shurikens and paper bursts toward the thing. But in its spinning form, the shell was protecting it. Konan sent several explosives, but it burst right through them as it was going to crush her. As Konan was preparing something though, she had to stop this at all costs or she would die. But at that moment, the pressure dropped. The air became so dense. The water molecules in the air, here being a wet place, suddenly started to fall like they were being frozen. That was strange. As the ground became slippery and wet, the water molecules, everything falling. The sensory ninjas of the Uzumaki started to fall. Yes, they started to fall. As their senses got overloaded, Rengoku stopped. As he went to check on them, they were just unconscious. Meanwhile with me, she was watching the fight. As suddenly Ao dropped to his knees, clutching his eye. As the other sensors with them started to fall as well, going unconscious. Meanwhile, even though a distance away, Jiraiya eyes snapped towards Kiri. What the hell? He was a far distance off, but what the hell really was that? As this power, what is it? Meanwhile, Yagra was still coming towards Konan when suddenly a force slammed into him. This wasn't any natural force, as it was Naruto. A few scrapes and burns were on his clothes, but other than that, his skin was perfectly unblemished and fine. An almighty push that cracked the shell, surprising even Yagra himself. As the thing was sent sailing with such ferocity, it felt like the air itself was fighting against it because it was pushed back so violently. Konan looked to see Naruto standing there, his hair shadowing his eyes. He was not talking to her, but he was mumbling something. She was confused. Despite everything, it was their orders not to kill it, because they need to bring it back. But the amount of power that Naruto just used, and what she was feeling right now, he lost it. Naruto, she said. Konan got to her feet. Naruto. But he was still mumbling to himself. Kill. 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 Slaughter. Murder. Kill. Slaughter. As she saw his face turn to a wicked grin, all she could see was his smile. As he then started to walk. Konan understood the pressure now. What the hell? Naruto's body started to change. His 9 tails was spread out wide. His hands, his entire body started to tremor. As Konan blinked in confusion. As she watched as he started to grow in size, confusing her. He started to grow even more. His fangs started to extend. His face taking on a more ferocious feature. As he started to grow taller and taller until he was the size of a 2-story house. Konan, the other Uzumaki, is blinking surprise and confusion, Mei and the others as well. Naruto stood there, not as large as the Kyuubi. But that was because, currently inside the seal, Naruto dragons were biting on the cell, as his entire inner mindscape was glowing. These dragons had another purpose that no one knew about. After all, Naruto had absorbed the Kyuubi. Where did the fox essence go? Where did the fox itself go? Its chakra remained, but where the features, where did the power, the humongous strength, and everything else go? The chakra was left in here, which the dragons were currently siphoning on. Back in the outside world, as you could see, his shadow started to change. Fur started lying in his hand. Golden fur came over Naruto's 2 hands. His shirt had been ripped off, showing his large chest, as there was fur over his chest, giving him an 8 feature, with his 2 pecs and a 6-pack being shown. His eyes were closed, as his mouth was closed as well, but you could see some budges right at his mouth, like something was inside, ready to be released. Strangely enough, he had on pants, golden pants, that seemed to form the moment he took this form. As he stood tall, the Three Tails was raging as he came towards him once again. Yagura, seeing that Naruto was doing anything at the moment, was going to take him down, spinning wildly. Yagura was stopped by Naruto's simple hand that stopped him in his rampage. As his eyes snapped open, yellow Rinnegan glaring dangerously, his fangs showing, he roared. The entire place shook. He picked up the three-tailed turtle and smashed it, breaking in the shell. Yagura was shocked beyond disbelief, just mere force, as Naruto raised his giant fist and smashed it down on the beast. Despite his tall stature, the Three Tails was still bigger than him, even though the Three Tail was a turtle. As Naruto hasn't assumed, it seems like his power was still lacking. The chakra of the beast, the Kyuubi, was still sealed away. So this wasn't all of the power. As Naruto had managed to drop the Three Tail on his back, the Three Tails started to build another Biju bomb. Naruto's hand started to glow with a yellow buzz, as he seemed to ricochet off lightning. Sparks just sparkled in his hand before he slammed his hand in the Three Tails' mouth, pushing the Biju bomb inside of it and shut his mouth. The thing imploded upon the inside as it was sent skidding away by the force, smoke coming from all over it. Naruto jumped as he descended upon it, crashing into the Three Tails' stomach. The thing screamed out in pain as Naruto started to bring down his fists. His 9 tails started to stab into the thing, ripping the shell apart, tearing it piece by piece, as he grabbed it by the head and crushed it into the earth. The body of the Three Tails started to shrink, but Naruto did not stop. He did not stop as he kept on pounding away, over and over again, beat on the Three Tails violently until the thing was nothing but a bloody mess. Yagura's body shrank back down to normal as he was unconscious. As his body was light, it was swimming in blood, but he was still alive. The Three Tails tried his best to power that it had to heal him. But if Naruto did not stop, the next hit would kill him, and Konan knew that. Konan flew in front of him. Naruto, she said, she extended her arms. Stop. Calm down. As she looked at him, his eyes glaring at her, as his hand shot out fast as you would expect as it grabbed onto her, his Rinnegan spinning wildly in his eyes. As she tried to break herself in the paper, but she could not. She felt her power completely restrained. She was confused what was going on. She looked him dead in the eyes. You won't hurt me. He squeaked as she cried in pain a bit. We are partners, remember? You said you have my back. And I have yours as well. Are you really gonna break that oath? She felt the titan loosen as the thing released her. Stepping back, Naruto started to shrink. His body started to return back to normal as he cried out in pain before he collapsed, face first, as Konan rushed over towards him. As she quickly propped him up. Strangely enough, these pants had shrunk with him, these golden pants. She could tell that they were not normal, as she tried to touch it, but the thing shocked her. She was confused. Just what in the hell happened to him? As Konan looked over towards Yagura, who was still unconscious. She knew if Naruto wasn't holding back, this would have all been over when it started, but he couldn't afford to kill Yagra, so he had to go into this not fighting at his best. And Yagra got the job, but that Biju bomb, it didn't even leave a scratch on him. But his anger, she knew that his anger would be the better of him, as that state that he just entered. Should she tell Nagato about this? Was that the Kyuubi? If they placed Naruto in the Gedo statue, would the power be absorbed into Gedo statue? She didn't know. What was she supposed to do? She looked at him as she brushed his hair away from his face. She then felt something as she looked up. She was surrounded. All the rebellion forces were there. May, step forward. You, she said. This doesn't involve you, said Konan. Keep a calm demeanor despite her being surrounded. I suggest you leave. Us leave, said May. As May had on a charming smile. Seems you've gotten everything wrong. You people just step foot in here. What we've been fighting so hard for, you've destroyed it all. You destroyed the village. Well, not you, but him. And for that, he will die. Konan got to her feet as paper wings came from her back. If any of you touch him, I'll kill you, she said. It appears you don't see the numbers, said May as she stepped forward. May had to jump back as a lightning bolt shocked where she was. She's not alone. We too will not allow you to hurt Naruto-sama. As they were now surrounded by the Uzumakis. Time skip. As Naruto felt pain, he didn't know how long he was out for. The last thing he remembered was this anger, this rage upon hearing Konan hit the ground. She seemed to be in pain and he lost it. What the hell happened? Naruto sighed. This would have gone a lot easier if he was just able to kill Yagra and be done with it. Because of his restraints, he had to hold back. And he never expected the man to implode the Biju bomb. But still, he wasn't hurt by the explosion. But hearing Konan scream, he lost it. Naruto heard nothing around him that was strange. Nothing at all. But what happened? How long was he out for? He opened his eyes slowly. The first thing he noticed was something shining as he looked down. Strange golden pants that he was wearing. As he touched it, he felt a surge of power coming from them, which confused him greatly. That was strange. He wasn't wearing any shirt or anything, just pants alone. As he looked around, his eyes snapped open wide and he realized he was in a barrier. A barrier? As he saw Fui Jutsu markings on the ground. He looked through as it was a see-through barrier to see the Uzumakis and Konan fighting. As Naruto got to his feet. Meanwhile, outside, May jumped to the side. She speed through hands and released several balls of lava, but Konan dodged him in mid-air. If you think we'll let you out of here with that, tail beast, you're sadly mistaken. You will lose. Your strongest is out at the moment, and we're overwhelming your forces. They might be strong with Fuinjutsu as I can see, seeing that my men were completely able to break that barrier, but my shinobis will prosper on. They haven't spent the last years fighting, going through hardships for nothing, and what you've done, well, sorry, I keep on saying you, but him, he will die for it. Suddenly, the barrier shattered, as the chakra was sucked away from the seals, leaving it to just break apart. All fighting stopped. Naruto-sama, one of the Uzumaki said as it was a girl. She looked over to him. Naruto smiled at her as she blushed the slightest. As Naruto looked around, as he looked at the Kirin ninjas, as he simply smiled, he focused until he found May, picking her out of the group. As he walked forward, all of them clutching their weapons. As I remember what happened last time, one of them completely was, well, crushed by the force, so didn't go close to him. As Naruto simply floated off, meeting Konan in mid-air. Are you okay? He asks. Yes, I'm fine. But if you can't see at the moment, we're currently in a scuffle. Oh, they will run away, said Naruto, as he extended his hand. Universal pull. Yagra was pulled towards him as he caught Yagra by the throat, who was still unconscious. How many of you here think you can defeat Yagra? Said Naruto, as he landed on the ground. May narrowed her eyes. None of them said anything though, As Naruto looked at Kojiro. Nice sword, he said. Kojiro trembled as he stepped back. Well, if you can't, how exactly are you gonna win here? I brought him down. And you wanna know something? My objective was not to kill him. So, I was holding back a lot. But if you people really stand here and think you can win against me, you're sadly mistaken, or any one of us. As you can see, Naruto, the Uzumakis will not fall. Mei eyes narrowed as she looked at the members around. Fuin Jutsu. Uzumakis? Being a part of the Kurumi clan, she knew about the Uzumakis back then. But they were wiped out by... She paused. So that's it, huh? Revenge. For what Kira did with the three-way alliance against your village. Yes, said Naruto. I take you figure it out. Well, this is one village down. The rest will pay in due time. I suggest you all leave immediately. I have gotten my revenge on the village over there. Now, why don't you all run away before I get angry? Before Mei said anything, Naruto spoke once again. Look over at your village. Do you really want the Kira line to end right here? Do you really want me to wipe it from existence completely? Mei looked at her man around. Naruto sighed as he raised his hand up in the air as he started to gather his power into one simple hand. Fall back, said Mei. Mei-sama, fall back, she shouted as her man started to jump back. As they all quickly retreated. Ah, said Naruto as he looked at her and a smile. As he floated off the ground. My people, he said. You've all fight brave and strong, just to save me. Of course you would, one of the girls said. You gave us back hope. We're going to rebuild the Uzumaki clan, right? We're going to make it great again. Yes, young one, said Naruto as he smiled. The Uzumakis will rise once again and be placed on top. This time, no one in the elemental nations can stand in front of us. And if they try, we will break them down. As they all cheered, the Uzumaki will rise, said Naruto, as they all started to cheer and chanted on. As a big smile came on his face, Konan floated up towards him. You're not okay, are you? As Naruto smiled at her. To tell you the truth, I'm tired and weak at the moment. I could have probably handled those shinobis, but it was going to be difficult, given their numbers. But I guess I had enough power to scare them. Had to play the big, well, boss, you know. Konan sighed. What happened to you? We'll talk about that later, said Naruto. As long as you're okay, everything is fine. You're doing it again, said Konan. What? Said Naruto. Risking everything because of me. Well, it's just my instincts to protect you. Can't really know why though. Maybe it's because you're an angel. Angels must be protected after all. As Konan looked at him, she didn't see the glimpse of Yaiko once again. Instead, she saw Naruto there. What does this mean? She felt something strange building up inside of her as she simply turned her head. My people, shall we go, he said. As they all shouted, as Naruto looked at Rengoku as he landed and placed a hand on Rengoku's shoulder. It is not done yet, he said. Our people are still out there. And I'm going to find them all. I'm going to make sure the Uzumakis are back on top once again. But I will need someone to watch the village while I'm not there. Can I count on you for that? Just because I live the oldest, you take me as an old man. Well, the advisor said Rengoku. No. More like distant family, said Naruto. As Rengoku smiled. You're like our old grandfather, said Naruto. Hey, I'm not that old, said Rengoku. As Naruto simply chuckled. Sure you're not, he said. But guys, if you enjoyed this episode right here, if you want the next part, be to do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on bell notifications to be posted. But I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.